Hey everybody, Shar here, and welcome to the Blonde and Strong podcast. This is a podcast of strength and empowerment, with each episode dedicated to helping our listeners improve their health, well-being, to learn, grow, and unlock their strength from the inside out. I felt called to create this podcast to give a platform to inspirational guests to share their knowledge, experience, strength, and hope in order to empower others, to prove it's not only possible to survive, but to thrive. And this is done through open, honest, unfiltered conversations. This is a safe space for people to be raw and powerful through their vulnerability without shame or judgment. So no topic is off limits as long as it has the intention of empowering listeners. Our growth is our own responsibility and no one can do the work for us, but I truly believe that we're stronger together. So sit back and relax because we're about to dive in deep. Come dive in deep with us. So on today's episode, we are welcomed by none other than Derik Scott. Hi, Derik. Thanks for joining us. Just so that people know, Derik is one of my favorite overachieving people on the planet. He is a Guinness Book of World Record holder, MMA fighter, lawyer, personal trainer, and Titan on the NBC Titan Games. And if you have not checked that show out yet, you are missing out on life. Like, you need to check this out. Derik, you're amazing on it. My sister was so jealous when she found out I was having you on the show. She was like so excited. So welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. That was a really fantastic intro that takes you through so many different points that I think most people don't think about on a daily basis, right? Like, your growth is your responsibility. And I come back to quotes. I love quotes like a lot. And one of the quotes I was recently kind of reflecting on is that anything in your life that you don't like, you are actively choosing. You're actively choosing everything in your life if you're not actively working on changing it. And that's so cool. And before we go any further, I have The Rock's phone number. I'll give it to everyone who wants it. He's my boy. We call him DJ half the time because that's just kind of how they refer to him on set. Yes, he's as genuine, authentic, and awesome as he seems on his social media. And what else do people always ask me? I did smell what he was cooking. It was some tequila and a cheap meal, so it was good.
Well, obviously the tequila is going to be in there. That's all that guy seems to drink other than water. I can't tell you how excited I am to hear that he is as good a man in real life as he comes across on his social media. Because we were talking a little bit before we pressed record about, people being their most true, like, authentic selves. And when I see him, I get that feeling from him that is just a really authentic vibe that he puts out. I don't feel like it's put on at all. But then sometimes when they say, like, don't meet your idols because
Heroes.
you'll
Yeah.
always be like disappointed. And I always hoped that wouldn't be the case with him.
Yeah. So what's funny is I've had that experiences go both directions where I've met my idols and they are as good a person as I thought they were. The Rock would be one a very easy example. Dr. John Berardi is another example.
Oh
Those two
yeah, that was
individuals
amazing.
are so authentic and kind and of just like a service mentality, and they also, both of them actually, which is a common characteristic, they think through uh, comprehensively before they make statements or before they write anything or before they do anything publicly. And when you're having just a normal conversation with them, obviously not everything is filtered, but even in that stream of consciousness, you can kind of see their mind working through, like, is this the appropriate thing to say? Are people going to be influenced by what I'm about to say? How are people going to be influenced by what I'm about to say? And then obviously different constructs, but both fantastic people. But then on the flip side of that, I've met some heroes and been like, you are kind of a POS. I maybe shouldn't have met you.
Yeah, I have also had both of those experiences. And I love what you said about that. When you were talking about The Rock and Dr. John Berardi, funnily enough, the feeling that I got when I thought about both of them as you were talking was I got this like sense of like almost a pulling forward of my chest, like as if they give, like constantly they're giving of their information, of their knowledge, of their time. Like that's the kind of feeling I get off both of them.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not just them. Before we started, we were talking about Tony Robbins and the experience that we had with Wim Hof and Dave Asprey, and there's so many just awesome people. And when you meet people who are, just super quality, at the moment that you meet them, you have that chest pulling forward experience where you want to be close to and receive everything that they have to offer as genuine humans and people who are being their most authentic selves. And I think oftentimes you can trust your intuition with that, right? You get to experience a person and measure them in person. And sometimes, you know what, we're so blessed to live right now, because think about it, every single person that we've talked about is, you can experience them, whether it be via YouTube videos, whether it be a podcast, whether it be something that they've written, whether it be, on TV or in a movie. All those people are accessible now, right? Think about Gary Vee. You could literally see every second of that dude's life, and he's oftentimes spitting knowledge over and over and over. And we're so blessed to be able to be around those people, to follow them on social media, to be a part of their lives, because they allow us that access, and that is so cool.
Absolutely. And do you think that a part of that, those people that you've mentioned and people like that who have that level of influence and have that kind of following and admiration, that they naturally have a real sense of giving about them, like that everything about them is of service and about sharing and about sharing their knowledge and experience with people to just try and better others?
I think so, because let's use the cup analogy, right? Once your own cup is full, you're going to want to, share what's in your cup with others. And I think that if you are a full, genuine, happy person who has achieved some level of success, you recognize that you have a relatively full cup and you're capable of giving to others. So you tend to lead that life of service. And I think the best people that I've met are extremely serving of others, right? They're selfish to the degree to keep their own cup full, and they recognize that their cup has to be full before they can share anything with anyone else. You can't share from an empty cup. But once they've achieved that, right, they've protected their mental space, they've protected their time, their family, whatever they need to protect, they're able to give themselves with the rest of their time, the rest of their acts of service.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's funny, isn't it? You were saying about how like they have a full cup that overflows and they just want to keep giving that to other people, and they do have to look after themselves. In a funny kind of like flip side of that, it's the same kind of thing, but in like things like recovery programs, they talk about you have to give it away to keep it,
Mhm.
and one of the things that they say that needs to be done, especially even they said when you're struggling, one of the best things you can do is try and help someone else, be of service to someone else. And there is something about that living in a state of being of service to people that also helps you to keep your cup full. When you feel like you have a purpose and you're of service and you're actually making other people's lives better, as long as it's not at the detriment of your own,
Mhm. Mhm.
I think there is a part of that that keeps you fulfilled as well.
Yeah, let's use two people that we've already talked about. Both The Rock and Tony Robbins have experiences where The Rock's entire company is called $7 Productions, because he had $7 in his bank account, I believe, when he was cut from the Canadian Football League, and he didn't know what he was going to do, but he knew that through servicing others through entertainment, and he believed in himself. And then he was able to become the most successful movie star that ever existed. He's literally the most followed man on all of social media. And then similarly, Tony Robbins, I think he said he had $100 in his bank account. And what he did was basically gave that $100 away and went through acts of service, and it came back tenfold. You get what you give, so to say, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, and you have kind of looked at the environment and taken into account all of the variables that play.
Yeah, absolutely. That universal flow, like with us trying to get this podcast sorted and like felt like the universe is
Yeah.
against us. The internet has not been our friend the last couple of times. This is like attempt four. And eventually I think we've managed to like nail it down, but I'm so glad we did. So I'm going to take you through a quick this or that question time, because I like to do this with my guests just so that people get a little bit of an understanding of who you are. Okay, so you
Okay.
got a quick fire, this or that. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Phone call or text message?
Text.
Beach or mountains?
Both.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
City or countryside?
Both.
Winter or summer?
Right now, winter. I'm craving going to the mountains.
Okay. Connection or isolation?
Connection. Always.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
IQ or EQ?
For myself, IQ. For others, EQ.
That's interesting. Dive a little deeper into that. Love or money?
Hmm. Love.
Depth or width of connection?
Depth.
And would you rather be right or happy?
Happy.
Okay, that was it. You did it.
Yeah, those are easy. But you know what's funny is that oftentimes I think we're presented with a false dichotomy. Take, for example, the beach or the mountains. If you live in Southern California, you can surf in the morning and then go snowboard in the evening. Not a problem.
Yep, you
And
get
then,
incredible, isn't it? We used to like
yeah,
surf, just make sure you get down for your surf 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. You can be up in the mountains in the afternoon,
yep,
whole
yep.
afternoon of snowboarding or skiing or whatever your poison is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my brothers and I. So I'm one of three brothers here on Earth. We had a brother that passed away, and that dynamic shapes a lot of who I am. But
Mhm.
amongst me and my brothers, we disagree all the time, and we try and reflect and talk about the things that we're reflecting on. And one of the things we've recently spoke about are these false dichotomies that we're presented with, right?
Mhm.
Oftentimes you're told either or, but when in reality you can usually have most of what you want if you're willing to work hard, compromise a little bit, and be smart about what you're doing. So like, beach or mountains or summer or winter, seasons change, and you can go to both, right? You can travel places. I think that most people have these limiting beliefs where they have to have this either or, right? Oh, I have to have one, love or money, right? I can't have both of them.
Well, I was
When
gonna say, I think that's a really biggie, the love or the money. I think it was really funny. I had it's an American woman. She's actually randomly from Laguna Beach. I didn't know she lives in Denver. Her name's Kenna Renee. She's lovely. She's a dating coach, and I had her on, and I asked her the same questions. And when I said love or money, she's like, "You can have both, y'all. You don't have to like pick between one or the other." And that's the great thing about these this or that questions. It's like you can actually have all of it. And we're made up of different parts, and all of those things speak to me in one way or another. And some days I want one, and some days I want the other. And it just depends on what I need in that moment. Yes, you can have it all. The I find the funny thing about this or that, when I was younger, a game like this or that would have literally made me implode. Like it would have made my brain implode because I would have been sat there going, I can't pick between them. Like, what do I do? And then I realized that you came to the planet like with, like you said, that kind of like authentic, true self that you are. And there's parts of you that are going to be pulled to one of those over the other. It doesn't mean that you can't have it all. It doesn't mean that you're limited to just one or the other. But I think there's little parts of you that are drawn or pulled or actually lit up by one more than the other, or that you get a sense of joy and fulfillment more out of one than the other. But we need all of it to like be a whole person, right?
Yeah, what's funny is we talk about like foundations of deep health or the elements of deep health, or in other contexts they talk about the tripod of life, which is money, relationships, and then physical well-being. And when you talk about those things, when you talk about elements of deep health, or you talk about the tripod of life, one helps the other, right? So you get in better physical condition, your relationships improve, you're happier, so you make more money, rather than focusing on one to the detriment of other. Oftentimes, if you have a holistic view of those things, you improve all of them at the same time, and your life in general kind of gets better. You get significantly closer to like self-actualization and real happiness, and being your genuine self.
Absolutely. I mean, I've kind of done a really quick tick list for the listeners of all of your kind of key point achievements, but I think it would be really good for people to understand, in the years that I've kind of been connected with you, Derik, I've watched you achieve some incredible things, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you're an MMA fighter, you've won fights. I know that that isn't just you, that your brothers also do that. You're a very like a sporting family. All of
Hmm.
your family are very successful in everything that they do, right? And this is obviously something that has been taught and bred into you guys as a family. So, like taking it right back when you were a kid, like your family had a gym, right? So you were into
Yes, correct.
gymnastics.
Yeah.
And how do you think that starting from that point with your family having like a gymnasium where they were teaching gymnastics, and you and your brothers, how has that shaped your success moving throughout your life to where you are now, and how it will continue to shape your future?
Yeah, so those elements of deep health, we were blessed to kind of inadvertently fall into as kids, right? We would compete as children. We always had community because we were amongst our brothers. We had gymnastics, so we had that physical culture as well. And then we were always working on mental skills. We had Olympian level gymnasts in our gymnastics gym from the time I was kids, or national level gymnasts. So we saw their preparation, their willingness to sacrifice, to work hard, right? All of these things that make people successful, right? There's a lot of characteristics that kind of that overlap. So we got those as kids, and then we always had this deep element and understanding of who we were, because our brothers would help us figure it out if we ever slipped, right? My brothers and I call each other when we're slipping on different things, right? Who we want to be as people, we want to make sure that our actions are congruent with that. And having an outside resource to say, hey, you're not acting the way that the person that you would want to be would act, right? Be your own superhero. And we talk about that all the time. So that foundation as a kid, that willingness to compete, that willingness to help your brother, that willingness to work on your mental skills when they weren't in the right place, that willingness to also have open, transparent communication, that ability to have that sense of community, right? Those are all elements of deep health, and we had those as kids, and we probably didn't appreciate them to the level that we should have as children. But now growing up, our mother would always say, your brothers are always going to be your best friend. They're the people who are always going to be there regardless. They'll always understand you. So being able to have somebody who understands you is also a huge thing for just who you are as a person and understanding yourself. So going forwards now, right? We've done Guinness World Records together. We've done American Ninja Warrior. We've done the Titan Games. We've done mixed martial arts fighting. I mean, I've backflipped in so many cages. It's crazy now. But same thing too when it comes to the small daily competitions that you have, right? Like say for example, I work out very consistently, right? Or I do mixed martial arts very consistently. It's really easy to just kind of go through the flow in those scenarios. But when you have this piece of your brain that's already been developed through competition, through having your brothers alongside you, you don't do that. Every single rep, every single thing that you do is falls back to that Aristotle quote, right? Greatness is something that you repeatedly do. It's a habit, right? So all of those things that we do, whether it be, a rep of a bench press, or a rep of going through a drill in mixed martial arts practice, or throwing a punch correctly, every single one of those things is done to the best of our ability, and then that kind of flowers into everything else that we do.
So, do you think that because you've been in a competitive sort of environment your whole life, from being a young child, watching those Olympic athletes and the national level athletes training, then having your brothers and competing with them, your parents putting in you into different sporting competitions and things like that, do you think that that's just another example of something that you have practiced consistently to have that like competitor's mindset, that winner's mindset? Like, even if you don't win, you're getting better at competing. Do you think that's kind of helped you? Because so many people, they might achieve in one kind of area of their life, or they might achieve in one sport, or they might, whereas you seem to achieve at everything that you turn your hand to. So I'm just wondering, if you think that that's that whole like the practice of competing and having
Yeah.
a mindset has helped you.
The more you do something, the better you get at it. And even if it's just competing. So think about it this way. My brothers and I competed in everything, whether it be video games, who could throw a rock at a tree the fastest, who could run faster. So that willingness and that ability to compete so frequently made us better at competing. And it's not just the competition itself, there's a significant amount of mental skills that go into how you compete, how you prepare, how you actually embrace challenges, how you get back up from getting the shit kicked out of you, right? And trust me, me and my brothers have beat the mess out of each other over and over and over again. So we know how to get up from those things. And then, you know, it's funny that Dr. Berardi actually recommended a book called Range, which talks about having a lot of breath, right? When you look at the CEO of most oh, did I lose you? You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Here we go. Yeah. So the CEO of most companies isn't the best at any one thing. He's really good at being pretty good at most things and then recognizing people who are the best at the one thing that they do. And having that ability to have that range and recognizing that your skills, you know, transfer to different things. Being a good mixed martial artist actually makes me a good lawyer, actually makes me a better brother, actually makes me a good nutrition coach, actually makes me a better trainer, actually makes me train better and be just a better person. And there's skills that transfer and are, you know, synonymous amongst all of those experiences. And that's what I think people become a little bit too narrowed in their focus, to the detriment of other things.
Yeah, I can see that completely. I would have thought that one of the things that would be a recurring theme running through all of those is the concept of consistency, tenacity, being able to keep going even when things are difficult. You were talking about training in the gym, and I know that one of I've seen it said and heard it said loads of times, and I know it from my own experience that if you have to do a set of 12 reps, no one gives a shit about the first 10. It's the last two. It's like how you
Mm-hmm.
perform in the last two. It's how you perform in those last rounds. It's how you perform coming towards the end when it's getting really, really hard and your body's telling you to quit and your head's telling you to quit, and you just have to keep pushing through.
Yeah, and that's where the mental skills come into play. And if you've experienced those truly difficult last 1 to 2 reps where you're going into the depths of your soul and ripping it out to complete that task, that skill transfers into every area of your life, whether it be the most difficult email you've had to write at work that really is just killing you, or whether it be a sporting arena when you're up on top of lunar impact in the Titan games and you feel like you're going to die and you're 1 inch off the edge from losing, and then you dig down deep. And that ability to have that tenacity and to go deep into who you are, and give more of yourself, right? Steve Prefontaine has a really awesome quote where it says, anything less than a suicide pace is, oh man, he basically says like you won't give anything less than a suicide pace. So you sprint, you're all always, and that's it, right? Anything else is to sacrifice the gift. So you have a gift to run that race or to do that thing that you want to do, and if you give anything less than whatever is your best, you're sacrificing that gift, that opportunity. But to the flip side of that, and this is the part that a lot of people don't talk about, oftentimes your best won't be good enough, but what you can do is get better from that experience, and then the next time your best is good enough.
Yeah,
And
but like you're not going to win every time,
sure, yeah.
even if you do give your best. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, sometimes your best isn't good enough. But there's a couple of things in there when you say that that I start thinking about. One, if someone doesn't give their best, that's probably a limiting belief in them that's holding them back. Like they're standing in their own way of achieving success, right? But also, if you give your best and you don't win, then it's being able to overcome that, not having that knock your self-confidence, but somehow being able to turn that message around in your own mind to actually spur you on to try harder and get better. And not everybody does that. I feel like they're almost maybe two of the same thing, of a lack of self-confidence or a lack of self-belief, and being
Yeah,
able
so
to do
I'm
that.
I'm going to rapid fire that in three parts. I think limiting beliefs, you control those, right? So my third point is going to go back into this, but your limiting beliefs are something that you control. It's a belief that you hold. And then the second thing is this not giving enough of yourself type thing. I think that the hustle porn and grind yourself 50 hours a day is overdone, because I think most people don't recognize that you can only train as hard as you recover, right? But the same thing goes for work, for mental skills, and sometimes you do need to take that step back and to relax and recover. And some of the most successful people in the world, I know Dr. John Berardi only works 7 hours a day max, right? And I think it's 4 days a week. Or you look at somebody like Naval Ravikant, who basically only works 2 hours a day, maybe if not even that. But he recognizes that he's significantly more productive in those hours rather than trying to work 24 hours a day, not sleeping, driving himself in the ground. Okay, now the third point is this: you control everything, right? You control how you frame what happens to you, right? So, okay, you tripped, you fell, you lost the race. Awesome. How do you frame that, right? That's just something that happened. I can frame it mentally how I perceive that thing that occurred. And then do I see that as a benefit, as a motivating factor to make me be better going forwards, right? Okay, you lost the fight via decision, right? That sucks. Does that motivate you to go do the things that you need to do and focus on the process so that the next outcome is the one that you want, right? You never control the outcome. You control the process and the activities that get you there. And this ability to control your frame, control your emotional state, to instantly flip and reframe things is so undervalued by most people, because like we all experience it all the time, where we're saying like, oh, I have this problem, I have this issue, I'm venting in this capacity to a friend who may have a great deal of wisdom. That friend basically says, hey, why don't you reframe and look at that thing in this way, and then your whole entire mood flips, your whole entire worldview flips. And we've all experienced it in some capacity, yet um we don't allow that to extrapolate into other areas of our life and recognize that we can always do that. Whatever the thing is that you're dealing with, you can reframe it and keep moving, or you can change it and keep moving and have those epiphanies over and over and over and over again, so that your entire worldview is one of, you live a life of abundance, and where you recognize that all things are either you're winning or you're learning from all experiences.
I love that you said that, because this is something that has been cropping up over and over again as I've been speaking to people recently. It seems to be like a recurring universal life lesson that's going on for people at the moment. And how I kind of like to put it in my own words is that you can either let life happen to you, or you can let life happen for you. It's figuring out, like, when you let life or situations or outcomes happen to you, and you're choosing to live in a victim mindset. And you know what? Sometimes it can feel that way. Sometimes it can feel like this is unfair and why is this happening and this is shit and I can't believe I worked so hard and then it didn't come off, like it hasn't worked out, and that can be really frustrating. I think there's an element of being able to allow yourself to feel however you're feeling in that moment and not try and like dismiss it fully, but at the same time you can't choose to live in that and be happy. Like that's never going to happen. It's going to drag you down and it's going to hold you back and it's going to keep you stuck in that limiting belief, right? And living in that kind of victim mentality. If you decide that the universe is happening to you, that all of these bad things are happening to you, like as opposed to looking at them like, how could these things actually be happening for me? Like, what can I do in this situation? Like,
Exactly.
how can I turn this situation into something to work for me as opposed to it like happening to me? You know, I've tried things, I've put things together, I've put them out, they haven't worked. And I've been annoyed or frustrated or disappointed. But then my first thought then after that is, well, if that didn't work, what can I do next? How can I actually make this more accessible for people? What can I do to like make this work better for me? Like maybe that wasn't quite right. If it hasn't landed, it hasn't landed. Maybe I need to look at like what I can learn from this. What did I do? Did I not work hard enough? Did I put it out too soon? Was it missing something? What can I learn from it? But that's just my mindset and how I kind of look at things. But it's taken me, years of trial and error and getting things wrong to kind of get myself into that mindset, I think. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the to you for you mindset dichotomy is very interesting. But again, you control that. And, I'm brought back to Ray Dalio wrote a book called Principles, and he has a lot of really awesome principles that he uses to triangulate his beliefs, right? So he uses other people who may have differing beliefs or of different mindset to help him to triangulate the belief that is actually closest to the truth, right? Or if when we talk about mental skills here, Dr. Jim Aftermow, he talks about this all the time about having the championship mindset, right? So like the to you for you dichotomy, you frame that. You get to determine what your mindset is. And I personally think the universe is neutral in a lot of ways, and that you are the one who is either making that to you for you judgment, because you control your perception is your reality. So if you think that the universe is in general working for you, you will view adversity as an element of your hero story, right? You don't get a hero without some adversity, without the evil villain or the evil thing or the world ending catastrophe that may happen. That's adversity, and then the hero is the one who solves that problem, right? Or if you're the victim, you're kidnapped and everything, you have no control over anything, and you don't recognize that you have the ability to save yourself and be your own superhero. And that's the limiting belief that we all can get rid of, and recognize that we can control our emotional state, we can control the things in our life, we control so much. And that we don't recognize how powerful we are, right? As far as this to you for you with regards to the universe. I mean, think about it this way. This morning we had like probably an hour's worth of technical difficulties getting on this phone call, right? So
Yeah.
we could have decided not to do the podcast at all,
Yeah.
or we can just recognize that there's some adversity, there's some technical issues. We're both smart individuals. We've both been on Zoom calls before. There's a solution to this. We collaborated a little bit, and now here we are. We're on the Zoom call. And I'm not sure if the universe was working for us or that was happening to us, but I know that I have the, oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. I have the capacity to influence what happens here.
Yeah, and to use those problem solving skills, to be able to find a way through and make it work.
Yeah.
I think yeah, it's really interesting what you said there about how powerful we really are. And empowerment is something that's really important to me, especially in this day and age where I think people are feeling a little bit out of control, a little bit disempowered. Like we've just gone into a second lockdown in the UK, and I'm sure it's coming around the world. There's going to be more and more lockdowns going across nationally in different countries. And I do know that people have like a bit of a sense of feeling like, they're out of control of their own lives. They don't get to go out and see their friends or family, or they're not getting to work the same way that they would do, and they feel powerless. And it was something that you said reminded me very clearly that sometimes it's in those moments of like powerlessness where we're actually the most empowered, because it's the chance where we get to remember that we have 100% control and power over ourselves, how we act, how we behave, how we respond, um, and how we structure our lives around us and who's in them, and what we do with our time and our space. And that is it. Like, we don't have control over external things. And the sooner we can kind of accept that and live in an acceptance of that and realize that the only thing we have 100% control over is ourselves, and everything in our immediate vicinity, like that, that we get to choose, we have the power of choice, which is like the most empowering thing, right? And I think if we could live a little bit more in that mindset more consistently, people wouldn't always feel like things were being done to them or that they were failing. It would literally be a case of, what do I get to choose today? Like, one of the things that I say to myself every morning when I have my own like little morning routine and my little time that I take for myself before I even get out of bed. And I choose to do that to try and put myself in a particular mindset ready for my day. And like, one of the things that I say to myself in the morning is like, I'm so grateful for another day. I'm grateful that I have another chance to be better, do better, love bigger. Like, I'm going all in today, and that is for me, that is just that little bit of a reminder that I have control and the power over my life and how I turn up today. How am I going to show up today? Like, peak performance, how am I showing up today? And that's kind of how I set myself up in the morning.
Yeah, you got the championship mindset, right? So you know that your mindset affects not only what you do, but the people, places, and things around you. And then you have the ability to control your own environment, right? And make your own habits. So you get to wake up in the morning and you do your morning routine, and that's going to set you up for success. But also you control whatever your environment is. So if it's tidy and it inspires you, that's on you.
Oh,
Oh, I'm having a coughing fit right now. Not optimal.
goodness. It's not COVID, we promise.
Yeah. Well, I'm isolated, so I'd be okay if it was.
No, no, I completely agree with you. And my environment is something like, I'm really sensitive to my environment. It's important for me to have, certain things around me for my environment to be organized and orderly. That's just for me. I always feel better when I know where everything is, everything has
Mhm.
its place. Like, I don't have to worry. It's one less thing for me to worry about. Like, if I need to put my hands on something, I know exactly where it is and I can go to it. Like, that definitely gives me some peace of mind in a day.
Yeah, shaping your environment is super powerful, and we talk about it in the context of coaching and nutrition and oh my god,
Oh my goodness.
and health and wellness all the time. But if you can shape your environment, you automatically control future decisions, and you make easy decisions, or you make good decisions easy, right? So, say for example, with regards to nutrition, if healthy foods are directly in front of your eyeballs all the time, boom, you're gonna choose healthy foods. If you've hidden the cakes and the snacks in a place that's very difficult to access and it's not directly in your eyesight, it's much easier not to eat those foods. Or let's use it in the context of exercising. If it's difficult for me to exercise, right, or I have difficulty actually getting to the gym, or taking a jog, or whatever my chosen physical culture movement is, if I put my workout clothes directly next to my bed with my water bottle and every single thing that I need, as soon as I wake up, I see those things. Okay. It's really easy for me to access them. It's easy for me to put on the correct apparel and to have all the things that I need to go do that activity. And then if I'm taking it one step at a time and I've shaped my environment so those choices are easy and I don't have to overly think about them, I'm going to do those things. I've shaped my environment to set myself up for success, right? But when we talk about your environment shaping your emotional state too, we all feel better, generally speaking, when our environment is tidied and things are where we want them to be, and your anxiety assuages, your mood generally improves. And that's something that, especially given that most people have been in, or about to be in, or may be in some type of a lockdown. Think about how powerful that is. If my home space, or the space that I am occupying most, is putting me in a good mood, right? That's huge. That's going to be super empowering and set yourself up for success. So shaping your environment is a really easy way to create low hanging easy wins, or low hanging fruit that you can just grab.
No, I love that. It's so true. I I know some people will be like, oh, I don't need that. Like, I don't notice it when it's messy, and like, it's really
Oh
funny.
God. Yeah.
I my family and I are all so different. Like I like everything to be like super ordered and organized and everything to have its place. It's important. I actually like when things just look beautiful and look, nice, and then you
Mhm.
can see everything and you can, because if you can see everything, you can access everything that you need, right? If I know where
Yeah.
everything is, it, like you said, it just makes everything easier. It makes my good choices easier. And then I don't have
Yeah.
to like think about it. But my family aren't like that.
Mhm.
Like hardly any of my family are like that. They don't mind it being a bit chaotic and stuff being all over the place. And I can't, like, I don't even know where I came from sometimes because that isn't like how we were brought up. But I need that. Like it definitely helps me. I have a slightly different mindset with it. And I definitely can't live in a big messy environment. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, the ability to stay calm in chaos is a superpower. So that's one thing. But creating unnecessary chaos is just adding additional adversity that you don't necessarily need. And it's inhibiting your mind's ability to think clearly. um, there's the founders of the minimalism podcast. They have a phrase that says, love people, use things, right? And because the opposite doesn't work. If you love your things, there's going to be some inherent, um, something wrong in your life, generally speaking. But if the things that you have in your life have utility, have a purpose, and they're actively serving you, you're going to lead probably a much more full life. And this concept of minimalism for me also goes back to the less things that I have and have to manage, the more experiences that I can participate in, and the more I can focus on being a good person. What am I doing today? Am I living a full life? Is this the life that I want to lead? Because those are higher level thoughts. If my room is messy and my dog has made my life crazy and there's 50 million things and I have to move 12 different things to get to whatever I need, I'm not able to think those higher level thoughts, because there's much more pressing concerns as far as moving or managing things. And I that's one thing that I personally have a large disdain for. I don't want to manage my things. I want to live my life. And the less things that I have, the more I'm able to do those. And the things that I do have should assist and enable me to live the life that I want to live.
Yeah, exactly that. The things that you actually have and surround yourself add value to your life as opposed
Mhm.
to distract you from living your best life or building the life that you desire, right? Uh,
Yeah.
So you've just been, you've been so successful with everything that you've kind of put your mind to and that you've set out to achieve. And I know you have a really interesting concept about doubling down on the things that make you successful, right? On that
Yeah.
kind of a mindset. So can you kind of explain that to people?
Yeah, so it goes back to like the limiting beliefs thing, or we've talked about like my upbringing, right? Rather than focus on the fact that my both my brothers are taller than me. Both my brothers are taller and bigger. So I'm inherently faced with some adversity there, generally speaking, when we compete in physical things, whatever it may
Yeah.
be. Rather than, I don't think about that twice. I don't care, right? I double down on the things that I'm really good at. So I just focus on what I'm good at, and then I double down on that, rather than spend all this time fixating on what may be limiting or what may need improvement, et cetera, et cetera. Not to say that I don't work on, my character flaws or the things that do need improvement, but what I focus is on the superpowers. And then those things that I'm superhuman at, I try and put myself into a position where I can just do that thing, whatever it may be. Because in doing a lot of podcasting and interviewing and competing and being around a lot of people, what I've recognized is that, um, me and my brother's upbringing is different than most people. So I try and fixate on the superhuman characteristics that has created, and then I just focus on that. Right? I'm pretty terrible at small details sometimes, or even just remembering like logistics, or my memory in general can be quite bad. So rather than say like, oh, I have this bad memory, oh, I'm not good at being on time sometimes, I focus on the things that I'm actually quite good at. And then I always double down on that thing, whatever that thing may be that makes me the best. Like whatever I am the best at, that's what I focus on. Rather than even think about the limiting beliefs or what I'm bad at. And that inherently, because I know that I'm already good at those things too, that confidence in that I'm doing the thing that I'm good at allows me to be 10 to 15% better anyways, because I'm not thinking about, I'm not limiting myself. I'm not having that limiting belief there.
Yeah, I totally understand that. It's funny because you hear like conflicting things. I guess when you're at school, they make you try and be good at everything, right? They make you
Sure.
try and you have to take every lesson, every class, and they're all completely different and require completely different skills. And they want you to become like good at all of them. And it's not actually rewarded to uh, be good at one thing and plow all of your attention and energy into that and becoming the absolute best at it. I think they're a little better at that in America because they do like to have the best in the world at things. So I think
Hmm.
they're a little bit better, I would say, in America doing that. But I know like in the UK it isn't like that. It's like, oh, you're not very good at math, well, why don't you spend a lot more time being tutored in math? Well, if you're not good at math, just don't fucking do math, like do something else, like. So all that being said, Derek, how important do you think visualization is for success?
Yeah, you know what's cool is so in everything that we've um visualization has been something that we've used and been accustomed to from the time we were little bitty kids. And I
Okay.
would always say, like, see yourself doing really well at whatever the event is you're about to go compete in. We competed in gymnastics. And in gymnastics, when you're 5 years old, is you've got some anxiety involved. You're like, I got to do a backflip as a 5 year old here. Like, okay, I'm going to see myself doing the backflip well. But the flip side of visualization that a lot of people don't use is that you have to see yourself overcoming some adversity too. So these visualization techniques are something that we use with regards to all things where we actually have the time to practice and do them appropriately. And then we take it a step further. If I have to take a big test, I usually go to the place where I have to take the big test. And then my brain, all my senses, and then I use all of that, and then I visualize taking the test and acing it, or I visualize a difficult question that overcoming that and figuring out the right answer. Or if I'm going to compete in a mixed martial arts event, I go to the place where I'm going to compete a lot of the times, and I sit down and I do all my visualization techniques. I've fought the fight 1,000 times in my brain before I ever go anywhere near the cage. So the sights, the smells, the sounds, everything that's going to happen going into that, the more detail that I can put into those visualizations, the less the less anxiety that actually experiencing them produces, and the more calm I can be. And then I can just lean into my superpowers, right? I can just lean into that zen, just allow myself to be. So those visualization techniques are amazing and allow for, it's so cool that you can fight the fight a million times, you can run the race a million times, and you don't have to move at all. You don't even have to close your eyes if you don't really want to, right? But you just think yourself through those things. You think through the race, you think through the rep, the competition, the American Ninja Warrior course, whatever it may be. So you've already done that thing a million times inside your brain, and by virtue of taking those reps, you're actually getting better. You're physically getting better by doing the mental reps. And I was privileged enough to speak to, I went to Baylor for law school, and the university I went to for my undergraduate degree and my MBA, we didn't have like a big sports program. So when I went to Baylor, I was like, okay, this is a D1 solid athletic program. I'm going to start to watch some of their sports. Well, fast forward a little bit, I was given the privilege to speak to the Baylor men's basketball team about mental skills. And this is one of the things that we actually talked about a lot, was this visualization technique and how you're going to face this adversity. And they actually I think they got their butts handed to them shortly after we had that conversation. And then right after that, they became the number one team in the nation before all the pandemic shut everything down. And they're currently ranked Ken Palm's number one team in the whole entire nation. And I don't know how many people are going to listen to this follow basketball, but we can analogize it to whatever sport it may be. But talking about those visualization techniques, they help. right? Because you've already played the game. You've already seen yourself face the adversity. You can literally see every single thing in the universe that could happen. You can visualize it. You can visualize what you would do, how you would react, how you would succeed, the worst case scenario, and how you can overcome that worst case scenario, or you just see yourself flying through the best case scenario, and then you've already seen it. It's already happened. You just have to walk that path to the best case scenario.
Yeah, and I suppose within that as well is that you're getting all of those feelings of, like the anxiety when you're going into it and you're starting, and then how that frustration could feel, and when your brain is having to decide what to do next when you're in that play and there is that adversity, and I guess allowing your body to get used to that feeling, and then the feeling of elation and excitement when you've actually won, and living in the feeling of that winner's mindset at the end, um, allows you to kind of manifest that and live in that kind of abundance. I do think that that seems to be something that a lot of successful people, especially athletes, do very differently to other people, but I think it's something that can be tapped into for just about anything, and I think it's really underutilized by the general population, because I do think it is something that can be really, really helpful. When we spoke last time before we actually recorded, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about people who we admired, and there was something that you said that really stuck out to me that I absolutely loved, and it was that concept that if you can spot it, you've got it. And I just wanted to touch on that for people, because you'd talked earlier about The Rock and John Berardi and all of these people that you've been really fortunate enough to work with, who you've been able to like pick their brains about, the things that they've been really successful at. And all of those things that you see in them that you really admire, really, you've probably got those things as well, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. Or an element of it, right? So like when you see your favorite athlete or your favorite person or the person that you admire most, when you see them perform or you see them do the thing that they're superhuman at, recognize that all those things, all those positive characteristics that you're seeing in that individual, the only reason you're able to see it is because you have some element of that thing within yourself, right? If you can spot it, you got it. So when I see someone exhibit the clutch gene, we talk about the clutch gene all the time, that ability to basically block every single thing else out and be clutch, to score the winning goal, to score the winning basket, to swing the knockout punch, or to pitch the sale and close the big deal, or to give the performance, whether it be acting, right? My ability to see people do that, to have that clutch gene or have that characteristic that allows them to be successful. The reason that I can spot how great that is because I have an element of that greatness inside myself. And now I may not express it in the same sense or the same, arena, but I can exhibit that within my own life. And this ability to spot greatness, to spot admirable traits, to spot those things in other people, you have those things within yourself. And I don't think most people recognize that. We're drawn to certain people because they have an element of ourselves within them. And I can see how great that person is because I recognize a lot of that within myself.
I mean, that is actually something like that has been proven in like psychology and relationship psychology and human psychology. Like we are drawn to people that are similar to us. We are drawn to similarities. Like we are always going to try and find common ground. And when if you were to like write a list of the things that you would admire most in a friend or a partner or a family, like very often when you write that list, if you were really honest with yourself and read it back, you'd be like, actually, those are all things that like I do, that I have. And I think people are afraid to almost like big up themselves like that and admit how great they are. Like, I don't know what that is societally, why people feel like they almost have to like put themselves down or not accept their own level of awesome. And I just say, fuck that. Like, you have to
Well,
embrace your own awesomeness. Like that.
hang on one second.
Mhm.
This concept of quiet humbleness is something that I think that most people don't talk about enough. But if you look at, let's talk about Deion Sanders, one of the best football players to ever exist, or Kanye West. Both of them have talked about at length. You have to be your own biggest cheerleader, because if you can't cheer for yourself, or you can't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you or cheer for you. So you have to be able to do that first.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. If people took nothing else away from that, like from this whole podcast, if you could walk away really being able to recognize how amazing you are, what those unique qualities are that you have, that you recognize in other people, and just being able to recognize them in yourself, and kind of like giving yourself a pat on the back, and like being your own cheerleader. It's not egotistical, it's necessary. It's absolutely
Yeah.
necessary. You've got to have your own back. You've got to believe in yourself. That is so important. I believe that's my core anyway.
Yeah, be your own superhero. It literally says right above my head.
Oh yeah,
It says it on my shirt.
you do.
Yeah,
You do post that. You
be
do.
your own superhero. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That is something that I see you post quite a lot. So, what now that you've achieved all of these incredible things, and I know the world is a little bit upside down at the moment, but is there anything big that you've got on the horizon that you're aiming for next?
Yeah, so all areas of my life. In the legal life, obviously just want to be a better attorney all the time because it's nice to win in that environment. With regards to like content production, movies, TVs, I actually did all the background stuff for a show called I Can See Your Voice, which is on Fox right now. But the pandemic hit and all that stuff. With Ken Jeong. He also is the host of The Masked Singer. So I did that on Fox, but I wasn't on the show or anything like that. So we'll see when the pandemic lifts what's going to go happen in that regards. I would still like to run American Ninja Warrior, because that was the original like audition tape that we sent back in like 2011 that kind of spurred the Guinness World Records, WWE's Tough Enough. We were on a big spot on that. The Titan Games, et cetera, et cetera. So I would like to run American Ninja Warrior. My brother Sean has ran American Ninja Warrior. And then hopefully I'll fight again early 2021. And then outside of that, I'm just we've been analyzing how we're going to put out content, how we're going to start to work with more people and try and scale. And so we have some things in the background, nothing that's ready to come out yet, and we'll see what kind of comes to fruition in that. And then the last thing is, I think we're going to probably start to do a YouTube series in some capacity. We built what's called the Russian swing, which is like a big metal swing where you swing and you flip off of it. And we're doing quadruple backs off of it. And so I think we're going to create a YouTube series just about that entire production, right? Making the swing, going off of the swing, smacking off the swing, almost dying off the swing almost tipping over. So that's a really fun adventure for people to go along with us. And those will probably be like 10-minute YouTube videos where you kind of see like, hey, we're going to make a Russian swing. What's a Russian swing? It's this big apparatus that you can swing off of and go into water or whatever. And then you see like that culmination in the YouTube series. And then the second video that we've already shot the footage of is we made something called a death kite. And a death kite is like a kite that they used to tow behind boats in like the 70s and 80s, but they stopped making them because they're big, heavy apparatuses and you're in water and they're on top of you and it's super sketchy. So we didn't make that one, but we bought it, and then we go through the whole process of like rebuilding it and then towing it behind the boat and almost dying a couple times and being drowned by that thing. So that'll be another episode. You kind of see that adventure. So that's one of the other like pet projects that I'm really enjoying.
It sounds like, I mean, I've seen some of the Russian swing footage that you've put on your Instagram and stuff, and it looks gnarly, like crazy. So it sounds like just some real extreme adventure jackass style videos are coming. I think it sounds amazing. I'm sure people would love to get involved in watching that. Where can people find you, Derik?
So I am my full name across all social media platforms, Derik Aspen Scott, DRIKASPEN SCOTT. Our health and fitness company is called Scott Health and Fitness. You can find some stuff on there, but we don't put out a ton of stuff right now. And then my phone number is.
Well,
I'm not hard to find because I'm an attorney and then I use my own name for everything. So like I make this joke all the time. I think everything about my life is like public access. There's not much that you can't find out about me.
Yeah, you're like not a very good investigator if you can't find you anywhere.
Yeah.
So what I'll do in the description of the bottom of the podcast, I will put like links for people to find you on Instagram, and then obviously they can follow your journey then through YouTube with your videos as they come out as well. I think that's going to be really exciting. I just want to thank you, Derik, for taking the time to work with me on the tech issues so that we could finally get this podcast out, because it's been so good talking to you. I think you brought so much to the table for people to go away and think about, as far as that whole like mindset, that championship mindset, being able to work on their like mental resilience and their strength, and taking things to the next level for themselves. And I just really appreciate you and your time. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to take this opportunity just to thank everybody for listening as well, because I know we've all got very busy lives. I hope you got something from it. And so don't forget to like and follow, subscribe, share with anyone that you think might get something from this podcast. Leave a 5-star review if you liked what you heard, as it helps us get into the ears of more listeners and change more lives. So until next time, stay strong, my friends.